Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to Civil War Generals 2 for the Battle of Front Royal, Alternate 3. This is the third battle in Jackson's Shenandoah Valley campaign, and so far my performance has not yet mirrored Jackson. We fought a draw at McDowell, and we lost the battle prior to that, so we have not yet been able to replicate the success that the Confederates historically had. Fortunately, neither of the first two battles were really decisive historically, but the Battle of Front Royal is one that should be more decisive in the Confederate side. We are playing as the Confederates. This is alternate 3, which means that Union forces are somewhat more prepared than they were historically. They have divided their forces and taken positions on the high ground, hoping to lure Confederates into the valley to be trapped. The Union should try to fight a delaying action, luring rebels into the hills where they can be destroyed. The rebels should try to quickly dispatch the delaying Federals and to mass their fire on the hilltops. So the Battle of the Battle of Front Royal, historically, the write-up is down here. Stonewall Jackson won a major Confederate victory at Front Royal, losing only 50 of his own men. Jackson crushed the Union garrison. His cavalry pursued the fleeing Union soldiers, took 750 prisoners, and left 154 dead or wounded. After severing the Federal communications east and west, they rode down and crushed the retreating forces at Cedarville. Of 1,063 Union soldiers garrisoning at Front Royal, only 159 escaped. 750 ended up in southern prison camps. So my guess is this will be a little bit bloodier than 50 casualties on our side and 154 on the enemy, but we shall see. So this is an attack on the Federal garrison at the city of Front Royal in the Shenandoah Valley. You can see here there are objectives on the right along this ridgeway. There are some objectives back here near Richardson House. The Strasburg Front Royal Road and Front Royal itself are all positioned here. Meanwhile, our forces appear to be located, infantry forces are located in two columns here along these two main roads here that either go around or into Front Royal. And then we have cavalry forces up here to the top left that could be used as a flanking force. T. Ashbury is the commander of this cavalry unit. He is a brigadier general. He is commanding a brigade. This is a regimental-sized battle, so each one of these units represents a regiment. And the stars represent, I believe, brigade commanders. That being said, let's go ahead and ride our cavalry in toward the Federal flank here. Toward this creek to see if we can get a better view on what the enemy has in store for us. And we didn't detect anything new, I don't think anyway, by riding in this general direction. Meanwhile, we do know that there's one large enemy regiment, the 1st Maryland here, located to our front. They have reboard farm muskets, so not very good weapons. They're very sort of reboard. Again, there's farmer muskets that are reboard into military service, and their barrels are reboard so that they can be used again. Very poor weapons themselves, but there's 1,000 of them. So, there's a quantity has a quality of its own, as some would say. Meanwhile, our own troops are coming up here, the 7th Louisiana Regiment with 1842 smoothbores, some reboards of our own, Whitworths and Napoleons and artillery batteries, 1842s, reboards, and musketoons. Our troops in the brigade on the other road, meanwhile, have 1855 rifles, 1882 muskets, 1882 muskets, 1842 muskets, Lorenz rifled muskets, which are nice, and 1842s. So overall, the quality of our weapons is not so great. If we unlimber our guns, we can shoot at these guys. So we might as well just do that so we can immediately get into action with that artillery. The 7th Louisiana is going to march kind of forward here with their reboard farmers' muskets. The 5th Alabama with their rifles is going to march in that direction. I'm going to try and get around the enemy and flank them. So we are going to kind of move our troops in either direction of the enemy line. And we're going to see if we can try and get around them. In this way. The enemy could choose to attack toward our column formations, but I'm hoping that they can't quite go that far, and that's pretty much already our turn. So this is a 20-turn battle. It's a one-day battle. You can see the enemy attacked forward against the 6th Louisiana by the looks of it. They also launched a bayonet charge by the looks of it, and the defenders lost 3 times almost the casualties of the attackers. More than double, not quite 3 times. So they really battered up that Louisiana regiment here. We can see there's another enemy regiment here, the 28th New York with farmers' muskets, a much smaller regiment, only 200 coming up to the rear. But in this case, it looks like the Federals launched the first attack here. We already lost more men historically, I think, than the Confederates did. Yep. Confederates lost 50 men, killed or wounded. We've already lost 92 in that first engagement. These battles do tend to be bloodier than historical. And you can see the 6th Louisiana is basically wrecked. It's not going to be able to do anything for some time. But the good news is that doesn't really matter for us right now. First things first, let's go ahead and move the 7th Louisiana, which is already in line formation in this direction. We're going to go ahead and move the 21st Georgia over here. We're going to move the 15th Alabama on this flank, and then we're going to move the 1st Maryland over here. Now, the enemy could try to attack and liberate, if you will, the 1st Maryland Regiment. They are within reasonable striking distance, although they would be attacking out of a town, which does slow them down a bit. And the federal troops just in the strength of these federal units is not that strong. Additionally, we can move some of our own troops in here to act as blocking forces, and we can even form them up in line of battle. So we will do that. So that only really these 2 units up here are exposed. The direct route by the closest federal units is blocked. So that's good for us. 21st North Carolina moves here, and with that being said, let's go ahead and bombard the 1st Maryland to limit their ability to attack us. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to hit the 46th Pennsylvania, which is coming down in reserve with its Prussian muskets. We're going to use our Whitworth artillery batteries. These are very advanced British breech-loading cannons. I think the Confederates historically only had 7 of them in the entire war. These are some of the most advanced weapons, but there's very few of them, and they didn't make a decisive impact on the war because there were so few of them. But it was sort of the precursor to a lot of these different technological developments that are being made at this period of time is demonstrated in the Whitworth rifled gun. So you can see we're firing at limbered up boys, at men in column formation, and you can see here we do a little bit of damage. The Whitworth isn't very powerful, it just has a really long range. Meanwhile, the Napoleon is the opposite. Short range, stubby, smooth bore, old school, Napoleonic in its name, and also its characteristics, but it is an incredibly hard hitter, and we're going to go ahead and use this guy to bombard the 1st Maryland, and you can see there we took out 3 of its firepower. We're also going to do that with our Tredegar rifles. So these are rifled guns. They hit harder than the Whitworths, I believe. Yep, by 1 AP is represents their destructive firepower. So the Napoleon is a 15 hitter. The Whitworth's an 8. The Tredegar is a 9. It's made in the Tredegar Ironworks in Richmond, the only cannon foundry in the Confederacy. At least I believe. I don't know if New Orleans had one, but basically by the middle of the war, it was the only thing the Confederates had left. And it has a decent range. It's basically a Confederate Parrott rifle, to my understanding, which is a Union equivalent. So there you go. We fired again. We inflicted some losses. They're down to 29 firepower. And now with that being said, we're going to go ahead and attack with what can we attack? Well, we can't attack with the 6th Louisiana. Actually, we can pull the 6th Louisiana out. We can go ahead and attack with Wheat's Louisiana Tigers Battalion, 13 firepower, so it's inferior in firepower. We're going to take more losses than we're going to give, but the real goal here is to cause the enemy to surrender. So we took 26 casualties in the attack, but you can see there their health, their organization, their morale, all are in the yellow now, and so we're going to order the 5th Alabama to go ahead and charge here, and yes, we'll use 1,000 morale points. We'll launch a bayonet charge, and that forces Kenly's 1st Maryland Regiment to surrender. We probably lost quite a few casualties, 32 in the attack, but the enemy lost 287, and the entire unit did surrender. So if we go into the casualty report here, we can see the Confederates have lost almost double the casualties, 150 men so far to 99. Well, I guess that's not almost double, but 150 casualties to 99 in terms of wounded or killed, but almost 1,000 Union prisoners already in our care, which that may be decisive, right? I don't know if these 3 smaller regiments are all the Federals have left or what else they have. We'll find out soon enough. Meanwhile, our cavalry cannot cross this river to the north, apparently, so they're going to sweep wide north at Ashby's. I thought they could. I thought there would have been a ford along that riverway, but apparently there is not. There is a small little ford up here in the north, so the cavalry is going to go ahead and head that way. We'll see if they even end up playing a decisive role in this battle. All right, 7th Louisiana is going to move up. And so our troops who are formed up, all of our troops on the approach of these Federal troops are now formed up in line of battle, and we can go ahead and move on to the second turn. Looks like a 4th regiment is showing up. Let's go ahead and get our cavalry into the rear of the enemy lines and see what we can see. Interestingly enough, I'm not detecting anything here. So there may not be much more to the Federal force than what we can already see. This cavalry can come in here and sweep and take all the objectives in the rear, but we've got 5 Federal regiments of infantry now approaching us. The 10th Maine, the Pennsylvania Zouavois Africa Regiment, And then we've got the 28th New York, 5th Connecticut, and the 46th Pennsylvania. We want to try and surround as many of these troops as we can. Looks like there's an enemy cavalry regiment here in the rear also. So to that extent, I'm going to try and extend my line out a bit. For the troops that aren't moving, I'm going to go ahead and dig in. That'll at least allow them to rest a little bit. And we'll see if the Union decide to attack at all. So these units are all going to move north. They might attack this regiment here. It only has 2 firepower. Meanwhile, we did detect 1 enemy artillery battery. Wheats, Louisiana, which was the men who launched the pinning attack in the enemy, will rest, and so will the 6th Louisiana, which bore the brunt of the enemy attack. Meanwhile, our Whitworths here can go ahead and fire on this Pennsylvania artillery battery. They are limbered up, so hopefully they can... Yeah, okay, so they drove them back, actually, and dropped their morale down a bit. So that's a good result here. The Napoleons can still reach part of the battlefield, fortunate for us, so they're going to go ahead and fire at the 10th Maine, and so will Courtney Rich's artillery battery as well, the Tredegar's. So not doing a ton of casualties, but keeping them busy at least. I'm hoping my cavalry maybe can come in here, and maybe we can force the entire federal force to surrender. There's a couple of enemy artillery batteries now that we've detected here. 1 federal attack, and it was made, again, the AI made the attack against our weakest unit here, the 15th Alabama. Smart decision by the AI. Meanwhile, the 16th Massachusetts is going to attack a limbered-up artillery battalion. They can't charge them, but they can at least attack them. They're limbered up, so they can't shoot back, which is good for us. Meanwhile, the Federals are falling back a little bit. So let's see if we can get our cavalry into the rear of this enemy formation. I'm not going for the victory points at this time. I'll go for the victory points with this 1 horse unit, the rear battalion. Okay, we'll go ahead and advance where we can. These guys are going to dig in. These guys are going to go up and over. See if we can get around the enemy flank. Meanwhile, the Louisiana regiment's going to continue to rest. Wheats probably could attack if necessary, but we're going to have him rest as well. And we'll attack. I mean, I guess I'm just going to shoot at whoever I can shoot at, right? There's not a lot of tempting targets. These Napoleons can't hit anything, so they're going to limber back up and move forward. And these guys can attack this guy here. All right, so I think that is it. So let's go ahead and move forward to the next turn. Federal artillery is unlimbering, so they are starting to get into the action. And the Federals are falling back, but also digging in. So the AI is playing pretty intelligently here to avoid being surrounded, I guess. I'm going to take my time, though. I've got 20 turns, actually. Going to move my cavalry over here, and we've got this battery up here that will be surrounded in a moment.
At ease, man.
Meanwhile, we'll rest one more turn. Let's see if we can get around their flank over there. We'll bombard this main regiment here. They're one of the few units I can hit with both my unlimbered artillery units there. We'll go ahead and use this cavalry unit here up in the north to take some of these objective points. Hopefully there's no federal reinforcements coming. All right, if the artillery stays unlimbered and they decide they're gonna just use their guns, they are gonna become sitting ducks. Although they did drive back that 1 infantry regiment of mine. Meanwhile, the African Zouavois, I think that's what the Z stands for, are attacking. Alright, so we'll move Wheat up. He's rested. 6 Louisiana, not quite yet. These troops can't... This artillery can only hit some units. We'll go ahead and hit these guys. The African unit there. 21st Georgia can still move, so good for them. which means that we're going to go ahead and charge this artillery with our cavalry and try and overrun them and minimize the impact of the canister. That looked like it worked. We lost 3 casualties, but the enemy battery surrendered. We'll take this other objective point with the 6th Virginia Cavalry, and then we will see if we can move on the enemy on this direction to try and envelop them. Meanwhile, the 8th New York Cavalry is going to be charged by Ashby's battalion or regiment of cavalry to drive them back and prevent them from playing a spoiling role in our flanking maneuver. And then we'll bring the 7th Virginia up to finish these guys off, hopefully rout them or at least really make them ineffective, which is what they did. They're going to have red morale, which means they probably can't attack anything. There's still a few objectives we need to attack in the north, but that can wait, I think. And let's move forward one more turn. See if we can get... All right, so their artillery is probably going to rout that one regiment of ours, if they focus on it, which they're actually not doing. They're kind of dividing their fire. Meanwhile, the Federals are retreating to the east. Trying to get in behind them, but the problem is the city really plays a bit of a role in denying us a whole lot of maneuverability. Fire on this regiment over here. And then these guys will let rest. We'll try and get another battery destroyed here. Alright, so we'll zoom in. We'll charge this battery here. 4th U.S. Artillery. They withstood our charge of cavalry. At least our initial charge. We'll have Watts charge again, and they surrendered. Alright, so the 2nd Battery of Union Artillery has been forced to surrender. Let's, for good measure, go ahead and save the game. Okay, just to be safe. In case the game freezes. This game does have a tendency to do that on us. Alright, we'll move this artillery up as far as it can go. These guys are going to move in this direction. We'll let the 15th Alabama rest a little bit. Same with the 21st Georgia. Both are hit pretty hard by our enemy artillery. Meanwhile, 6th Virginia will ride east. And we'll keep driving these guys back. Some more enemy artillery is firing. It seems like the only thing willing to fight is their artillery. It's kind of... Oh, I say that just as the 28th New York launches a counterattack against one of our regiments here in the south that's a little bit, perhaps, exposed. Meanwhile, we've also... It looks like the 5th Connecticut is going to be surrounded here. So we're actually going to go ahead and... Move these guys this way. Alright, so the 5th Connecticut Regiment is surrounded. I don't have anything that can really batter him up. So I think we're going to have Wheat attack again. He's been the attacker, the initial attacker in both of the regimental actions. And we'll go ahead and move on the 7th Louisiana to follow up. And the 5th Alabama, hopefully to finish him off. No, they still persist. Well, that's lovely. Doesn't look like I can fully surround this battery of artillery, so in that case, I'm going to try... Should we try and charge and hope they surrender? They're actually still in reasonably good shape. God damn it. Alright. We'll try. No! They broke and ran because the enemy held their ground. Damn it. Alright, we've got our artillery up here on this ridge line. This infantry unit of ours was driven back just by the enemy artillery, although they did... Looks like they inflicted a few casualties. We'll go ahead and move the 7th Virginia north. There are Federal horsemen up here. Perhaps coming to the rescue?
At ease, man.
All right, 21st North Carolina dig in here to resist any attacks by these regiments. And the Elders Artillery Battalion, go ahead and continue to provide your Whitworth artillery support. All right, we'll see how this battle unfolds. More Yankee artillery, because that's all they do is shoot their damn artillery pieces at us. Look at that. A whole nother Federal cavalry brigade looks like it's riding in from the north, perhaps to the rescue. 7th Virginia instantly rallies and reforms, so that's good for us at least. Meanwhile, the battle in Front Royal itself, the 5th Connecticut continues to be attacked. Hopefully they will break this time. They will break this time. All right, so they do break. They're finally in surrender. The 2nd Regiment of Union troops to surrender to us in this battle. Meanwhile, we're going to surround and overwhelm the F Pennsylvania Artillery Battery with cavalry charges, forcing them to surrender. So I think that's the 3rd battery of enemy artillery to surrender to us. We've got a 4th in our sights, although they may just drive us back with their guns. Seems like it's the one thing they can do. We'll go ahead and attack the lead element of this upcoming cavalry unit that's just arriving on the field. We'll then go ahead and charge their column with the 7th Virginia Cavalry, and we did drive them back at least. We'll fall back ourselves. 1st Maryland, meanwhile the 1st Michigan, 5th New York, and 1st Maine are coming up. Go ahead and mount these guns up. They don't have a very good line of sight there. All right. We'll attack with the 6th Louisiana here against the Pennsylvania troops. Go ahead and rest these men.
At ease, man.
I should have used my artillery before I launched the ground attack. But the Pennsylvania troops shouldn't be attacking anytime soon. All right, so Front Royal is ours. Enemy cavalry may still come south and play a role. You can see they just attacked and drove back the 7th Virginia. We're about halfway through the day's action. All right. 5th Alabama will attack this 1st Michigan Artillery Battery. Ashby should finish him off with a charge. No, he doesn't finish them. It'll be the 6th Virginia that finishes them. And this is also the battery commander. So another enemy artillery battery is forced to surrender. Meanwhile, enemy horsemen approaching from the south. 15 firepower for this regiment here with Maynard carbines. Can bring 2 artillery batteries down on it. Our infantry in the north is also not in the best shape. These guys, their morale is red.
At ease, man.
Okay. That's the bait for you, Federals. I just moved a column formation infantry unit to your front. So we'll see if they take the bait. Meanwhile, we'll move some additional cavalry up this way to try and protect us. And yeah, we'll hit the artillery back there, or the enemy infantry back there. All right, moving on. Damn it, they're going to continue retreating. So they're going to retreat to our right while their cavalry swarms in from the north, which is basically going to save them. It's going to force us to pull back our infantry assault or overextend ourselves and lose all the victory points. Can we charge these guys? No. We can at least attack these guys. It was a pretty even attack there, actually. Pull this cavalry back. Go ahead and move some infantry into support. Alright. Let's try and get behind these guys. Trying to get my troops on this flank behind at least some of these regiments to force them to surrender. Let's dig these guys in, give them a little bit of a rest. Same for these guys. Alright, artillery over here can continue to fire on these enemies as they retreat. This Whitworth has long-range guns. Alright, so the enemy horsemen are going to continue coming south. We're going to fall back. That actually opens up an opportunity for us to surround these guys. All right, so we've surrounded the lead element of the 1st Michigan, which is already not in the greatest shape. Now we can attack them, and maybe they'll surrender? Or at least we could probably bombard them to death with... great. All my troops are too beat up to attack. Well, I can hit them with artillery, and maybe they'll desert. Yep, so they desert. So we destroyed that enemy unit. Retook that objective. There's 2 more, or maybe 3 more enemy cavalry units still up there. We'll hit one of them with artillery. Actually, they're right to our rear over here. We can see they must be over here. So they may come down and attack our artillery. Great. Meanwhile, as these Yankee troops continue to withdraw, we continue to hit them with artillery to hurt their morale. All right, let's see. Can we drive these guys back? Yes. Okay, so we drove... Oh, nice. We drove them in the right direction, too. All right, so... that actually simplifies things a little bit. Not a ton, because most of our pursuing troops are not in the best shape either. So we're going to build a wall of troops, hopefully to prevent them from retreating in a direction we don't want them to. Alright, so we took that objective. And I think we will bag at least one of these regiments in the south, because I don't know that they can attack anywhere. I mean, they just attacked one of our units in a blocking force here down in the south. So I think what we can do now is let's try and charge these guys, the 10th Maine, I think it is. All right, so we caused the 10th Maine to give their ground up. Good. All right. The question is, how do I... what can I, like, how do I make sure they can't escape? So there's one escape route. I just don't have enough troops down here. I don't have enough troops to make sure that they can't escape. That attack failed. I don't really have enough fit troops down there either. Okay. Meanwhile, most of my cavalry is shattered to the point where they can't attack anymore. Infantry isn't great either. So the victory point situation is far less clear than the actual battlefield situation. As it is, we're going to hit this cavalry here, drop their morale a bit, and cause them to fall back. Nice. All right. Okay, so these Yanks didn't run, which is good for us. What can we attack them with is the real question. 9th Louisiana can definitely attack this Pennsylvania unit. We'll use a bunch of morale to do it, but we did force them to surrender. So that's more prisoners, although the cost in morale was probably too high. Meanwhile, fall these guys back, and then we'll go ahead and see if we can charge the 28th New York. We can do it, but we have to spend a bunch of morale again. We weren't able to take them, but we should be able to take them now in a second attack, and we did. Okay, so 2 more federal regiments surrender. We're spending a ton of morale and not actually getting much back, but nonetheless we forced 2 more Yankee regiments to surrender. Go ahead and hit these guys. Oh, we have no cartridges. We're out of ammo. Okay, so why don't you guys rest there. All right, we're going to have our cavalry ride around them. I'm trying to surround the enemy, but my troops probably are not fit enough to actually hurt them. So I'm going to have to bombard them and hope that, like, we can... Oh, God, their morale is really good. There's no way that's going to do anything. Well, we're going to get driven back over there. All right. Or they're just going to retreat out of the trap. It's probably, as far as I'm concerned, the preferable option for me anyway. All right, so we've got these 5th New Yorkers surrounded. We'll go ahead and hit them with artillery as best we can. We'll see if we can finish them off at all. Oh, shoot. I still have a gap in my line. Well, shit. Thought I had... Oh, I do have another troop up here. All right. So move these guys south. Is there anything we can actually hit them with? Probably nothing we want to hit them with. I think we'll wait one more turn. We'll wait one more turn and hope for the best. Meanwhile, we're going to fall back here. Trying to cut off some of the cavalry that's behind us. This is a weird action. It's more of a pursuit than anything. Let's rest these guys. And this artillery can't hit anything, so we'll limber them up and move them forward. All right. They attacked our troops who are in column, but they didn't actually drive them back. Yeah, just form up and hold. Okay. All right, so we've got these cavalry surrounded up here in the north. We're going to hit them with artillery, and maybe we'll just hope that they desert. Okay. I guess my cavalry can attack, but probably not super effectively. Why is my morale so low? Is it all the charging that I did? I didn't even take heavy losses in the charges. I don't know why the morale would be low. Move this artillery forward.
No, sir.
Move our infantrymen back here to try and help cut off some of these enemy horsemen that all just ran around us. But hey, now we can move back this way and try and cut these guys off. Okay, we'll see if we can cut off this lone federal regiment that just retook this objective. Meanwhile, we do have these guys dismounted and surrounded. Okay, so we at least forced them to desert. We didn't capture them, but they are removed from the order of battle of the enemy army. Presumably forever? Maybe not forever, but close to it. All right, so we'll go ahead and bombard these guys, the Vermont cavalry. And we'll go ahead and move forward. How many more turns? This battle's got to be almost over. Oh no, they attacked our artillery! We've got like 3 turns left. All right. We have like no ammo left, but we'll hit this artillery here. Try and ride behind them. Yeah, these guys are still going to be able to escape. Because I can't quite cut them off. Meanwhile, this enemy unit over here, we could actually surround. Okay. So one more federal regiment surrounded. Probably need to wait a turn to attack it. All right, let's see what happens next turn. So their cavalry turned and attacked our other battery of artillery. This time they failed to dislodge it, despite the fact that we had no ammo left in it. So we'll give them more ammo. And meanwhile, this artillery battalion is surrounded. Our troops kind of have no will to fight. No one wants to attack it. We've got one unit that can attack, and it does force the enemy to surrender. Gives us a little bit of a morale boost. Meanwhile, the 46th Pennsylvania, likewise, is surrounded. Go ahead and hit it with artillery. We attacked it with infantry. We'll keep attacking until they surrender. The troops attacking are not overwhelmingly powerful or in great shape, but just through sheer weight of numbers, we did force the enemy regiment to surrender. So another enemy regiment forced to surrender. Okay. And honestly, I think next turn is more about just like trying to run down some flags to make sure we've got enough victory points. The battle should be considered a victory for us almost under any circumstances. The enemy is just playing havoc with our rear with their own cavalry. We'll just make sure to stick some units on the different objectives. And we'll see what happens here. We've got one turn left. Final turn coming up. Move on to some of these victory points. And there you have it. Not going to bother to move anyone else. We're just going to consider this a victory and go. So we'll start the re-equipping phase just so we can save. We'll go ahead and save here. Final turn of Front Royal. There you can see only a minor victory. So a minor victory for the Confederates, probably because of the victory point situation. So we inflicted 201 wounded, 65 killed. We actually lost more men killed, 80 killed their 65, but we lost fewer wounded, 6 fewer wounded at 195. Total combat casualties, actually we took 9 more men than them. However, they had 285 desert and they had 1,800 surrender. So in terms of this battle's butcher's bill, the 2,000 men as either surrendered or deserted added to the killed or wounded, and we've got almost better than the 10-to-1 casualty ratio in our favor. We captured 23,395 weapons value, 2,657 supplies value. Victory points, we had 1,814 from victory hexes and 1,969 victory points. The enemy had 637 victory points, 487 from victory hexes, 15,170 weapons cost, 986 supply, and that's the scenario there. No officers wounded, several promoted. C.R. Wheats and Smalls promoted to Lieutenant Colonel. R. Brown of the Cavalry promoted to Major, and J.W. Watts promoted to Colonel. With that being said, guys, we did save this previously, so I'm not going to go through the re-equipping. We will do the re-equipping in the next video here, just so you can see what the next battle is. However, it's going to be the historical Battle of Winchester, another battle in the Valley Campaign for General Jackson, facing off against Nathaniel Banks, and we will see how things play out in that battle. Until next time, however, this is the Historical Gamer, as always, saying thank you for watching, and I'm out.